All right, everybody. Thank you for coming. Thank you for stopping by, and welcome to today's webinar, the $130 billion opportunity in sustainable lawn care. And we have a lot of great content for you guys to help you transition into the exciting world of sustainable land care. And we have an all-star lineup to provide that content. My name is Fausto. I'll be managing and administrating this webinar. So we're going to start with, so just to introduce our three speakers, we have Jamie Banks, founder and director of Quiet Communities, a nonprofit dedicated to helping communities reduce health and environmental harm from noise and pollution. Few people have the depth, the knowledge, and expertise when it comes to the impacts and benefits of sustainable land care and noise reduction initiatives. We also have with us Rick McCoy, our special guest. He's the founder of McCoy Horticultural, specializing in organic and ecologically mindful systems, and the authority in the East Coast when it comes to ecological horticultural practices. He also heads Rutgers Organic Land Care Group. And last but not least, we have Dan Mabe. He's a founder of the American Green Zone Alliance. He's America's sustainable lawn care guru, an evangelist who has dedicated his career to promote a cleaner and more responsible alternative to our current lawn care practices. Please stay tuned. At the end, we will have our draw for the Eagle Blower. And without further ado, pass the baton on to Jamie.
Okay, thank you, Fausto. I am going to start today, if I can make these slides advance. Oh, okay. So my name is Jamie Banks. I'm the founder and president of Quiet Communities. As Fausto mentioned, we're a national nonprofit. We work with AGZA to help transition the landscape industry to more sustainable practices. My background is as a research scientist. So for many years, my concern has been with the health and environmental impacts of all the fossil fuel powered equipment and chemicals that we depend on today for landscape maintenance. I want to start out by talking a little about the market opportunity here. You saw on the title, $130 billion opportunity. In 2021, at least, it was about $105 billion. So we're talking about a $25 billion difference, but that probably includes growth depending on the market research report you're looking at. The takeaway is that this has become a huge industry. The size of the landscaping services market has grown tremendously starting in the 1990s. The industry nearly doubled in size between 1990 and 2010 and has continued to grow. Over the last 10 years alone, the industry has grown more than 50%. So like other industries, land care is under pressure to move from fossil fuels to new technologies and practices. We're seeing this with road and air transportation, industry, and power plants. And the transition is being fueled by concerns over health, climate, environmental quality, and long-term sustainability. For the land care industry, this means a vision that's going to involve quiet, non-polluting equipment, reduced greenhouse gas emissions, reduced use of toxic chemicals, and the nurture and support of ecosystems. So this is a future that's really entirely different. And it's something that's not going to happen in a short period of time. It's going to take a long period of time to transition. Today's landscape maintenance is based on fossil fuel powered equipment. What this vision entails is a move to more advanced technologies and sustainable practices involving alternative energy, battery technologies, electric motors, robotics, new infrastructure to support that equipment, and software and data analytics. So not only do business owners and workers need education and training, They need to understand the economics of a new business model, what's required to get a quick return on investment, and how to make that investment turn into future profitability. On the customer side, it also must involve education. In this case, about sustainable aesthetics and service expectations. There's a lot that needs to be learned. And as I said, this is not going to be a quick turnaround, but a process. For companies and others that do make a successful transition, the return can be very substantial. This graph that you see here is from the US Department of Energy. It shows that on average, a large high-use commercial mower consumes 2,000 gallons of gas each year. At $3 a gallon, that's going to be $6,000 in fuel costs. At $4 a gallon, it's going to be $8,000. Imagine the savings that can be achieved over time if you could cut out those fuel costs for your entire fleet of equipment. That's the kind of monies that can be used to make an investment in new technologies. So recognizing the need for education and training, we've been working with Dan and his colleagues at AGZA to create an online platform to educate and train professionals in new technologies and practices. It's called sustainablelandcare.org. What we're going to be offering are professional certification courses and other CEUs. The basic certification is called AGZA Service Pro Certification Level 1. This has been launched. This course teaches land care and sustainability professionals everything they need to know to successfully transition to battery electric equipment. An advanced level 2 course is currently in development, and that's designed to help managers, supervisors, and business owners understand subjects including the economics of transitioning, how to manage an electric fleet efficiently, and more detail on emerging technologies. So what are the benefits of certification? As for other technical areas, professional certification is an asset. It teaches professional competence, which is important for performance, work productivity, profitability, return on investment, and customer satisfaction. It confers a competitive edge in the marketplace for those people, for the people and companies that are out there trying to attract customers. It can be an important determining factor for hiring. It advances and professionalizes this new and emerging sector, and it connects people who are interested in growth and innovation. So this series of boxes are the 15 online lessons that are part of the AGZA Service Pro Certification Level 1. I think you'll be able to tell that making a transition to new technology is not just about acquiring tools. There's really a lot to learn. So apart from the importance of certification, just understanding what the future looks like, the health and environmental rationale for why things are moving in this direction, how battery electric equipment works and then compares to gas equipment, the difference between commercial, residential, and prosumer grade tools so that you can select the proper equipment. And then we have a lesson that provides a guide to selecting battery electric equipment. What are the criteria that you use in choosing equipment that can really get the job done day after day and hours a day, the requirements of a commercial operation? And then operating, handling, maintaining, charging, all important day-to-day things to keep your equipment tuned and able to perform comparable to gas equipment for routine maintenance. And then there's other things like storage and infrastructure to support battery electric equipment. How can you set that up? What's needed? And then lastly, battery cycle life and recycling. That's a big concern today. What are we going to do with all those lithium batteries that are going to be coming from electric vehicles, electric lawn and garden equipment? And last but not least, but very importantly, safety considerations. And those considerations are woven in through the various lessons that we have here. So that's our level 1 course. We really think that certified professionals deserve special consideration, and we are in the process of negotiating with leading manufacturers who would like to support your efforts, recognize you as a certified professional by giving discounts on high-quality tools. I mentioned that apart from the certification courses, we will also be offering CEUs. Those will be conceived by AGZA quiet communities, but also others that are in the field. So these will be short courses, and the object of CEUs is so that you can maintain your certification. So these are topics of some of the short courses that we're anticipating: how to troubleshoot equipment problems, the basics of robotics. We know that robotic mowers are starting to come online. Very few people really understand how they work and how they're used, so we'll have a CEU course on that. Other emerging technologies, equipment do's and don'ts. Dan's going to talk a little bit about that in his presentation. How to create an AGZA green zone, an area of land where all routine maintenance is done without the use of fossil fuel equipment, depending on battery, electric, and manual tools and practices. How to understand ELF reports. These are environmental landscape footprint reports that report on all of the benefits of taking away fossil fuel equipment: reduction in greenhouse gases, toxic and carcinogenic exhaust, noise, fuel spillage, etc. A course on new equipment that's coming onto the market, and then a special course on how do you do heavy cleanups with equipment and practices that can give you comparable performance and efficiency to gas equipment. I'm going to end here. We have a landing page now where you can access the certification course, but this will very soon become a website so that we have resources, the courses, etc., that you'll be able to visit and choose from. And so with this, I'd like to hand it over to Richard McCoy. Richard, I'm happy to say, has taken the certification course and also has expertise in organic land care practices. So let me just make you host, Rick.
Thank you.
Let's see.
This is always tricky, right? It's never easy.
It is tricky, but I think I can do it. Okay, Rick, I think you're all set.
All right. Good. All right, share my screen here and slideshow up. Well, thank you everybody for participating in tonight's webinar. I appreciate everybody taking the time out of their evening, although hopefully you're in the air conditioning, at least here in the Northeast. It was a bit of a scorcher for the boys out in the field today. So appreciate you guys taking the time. And I'm gonna spend a little time tonight on organic land care. And like Jamie mentioned, we did take the AGZA course and we thought it was a great course. It really got us a good jumping point to really, get us started in, using the battery powered equipment. So we were New Jersey's first AGZA certified company. You see the little icon there, the MC in New Jersey, that's us. And thankfully we had what we call him the icon of the lithium ion. We had Dan run the program there. And so that was really awesome. We appreciated his time that he took and everything they've done to put together the AGZA program. So we appreciate that. There's the boys in the field using their equipment. So just some context from my background. I know Fausto, thank you for that brief introduction. I wanted to give you a little more information on my personal background and what's gotten us to the point we're at today. So I've been in the industry for about 30 years. We established horticulture in 1995, incorporated in 98, and we manage our landscapes in what we call now conventional or traditional, which means we're using synthetic chemicals in plants that were, not conducive to ecology, basically non-native plants and invasive plants, unfortunately. partially when I began my career, I was working as an arborist, and one of the things that my arborist duties was to go out and spray. And circa 1990, when I was doing that, we were, our job card read that we were supposed to go out into the field and spray the tree canopy for leaf chewing and sucking insects. Had I known then what I know now, I certainly would have been doing that. I would have been educating people like I am now on the ways to do things in a more practical way and more ecologically sound way. So in 2005, we transitioned our company to organic turf applications and plant healthcare, ecological landscape designs, and green infrastructure. And again, with AGZA, we are transitioning away from gas as quickly as we possibly can and utilizing battery-powered equipment. Just some more background. The company was recognized by the Smithsonian Archives of American Gardens, an advisor of the Organic Landscape Association, Ecological Landscape Alliance Bureau, member of Rutgers Organic Land Care Program, where I helped co-author the Organic Land Care Best Management Practices Manual, registered with the New Jersey Sustainable Business Registry. We're one of the first 4 in the state also to do that. So what is organic land care? There have been some discussions about what organic land care is and how can we bring what sort of started in the Northeast region to the rest of the country. So basically, there's 10 core tenets that will transition basically and cover everywhere in the United States and even Canada, South America. If you're in Europe, it would certainly transition there, work there as well. These basic core tenets will work anywhere. It's when you start to drill down to the particulars of these regions, soil, different types of soils, obviously different types of native plants, where it sort of becomes more specialized and more localized. But generally, overall, these tenets will certainly cover the United States and wherever you're watching this webinar from. One of the most important things is that we treat the landscape as a whole living system. What that means is we take into account soil biology, the health of the soil. What are the microorganisms in the soil doing? Are they alive? Are they dormant? Do we need to add food to the soil? In most cases, we do to stimulate that biology and to have that biology active so that they're actively feeding the plant material that we're growing, whether it's turfgrass or perennial gardens or native plantings. A whole living system. That also means that we're not spraying pesticides to kill caterpillars and things of that nature. Caterpillars are very, very important to our ecosystems. Obviously, they move on and they do their things as butterflies and moths, and they do a large part of the heavy lifting when it comes to ecosystem services and pollination. Promoting soil health, again, which that translates to healthy plants. If you have healthy soil, you have healthy plants. Favoring cultural practices. This is always a problem where you have folks out there, they're cutting the grass. Again, it's been 95 or 90 here for the past couple of days. Grass is going to start to get stressed. You want to leave that turf grass up 3 inches, 3-4 inches if you can. Certainly not scalping it at 1.5 inches the way conventional landscapes are managed. So what is organic land care? This is one of our properties, and this is what we like to think, the native transition from traditional to organic ecological sort of looks like. Limiting turf grass and incorporating more native plants. Again, we're not advocating to remove everything. Obviously, they have children, they need places to play. But where there is problematic turf grass, we try to eliminate that and incorporate native plants. And again, trying to make sure that the ecosystems that we're planting are managed in such a way that we're not spraying pesticides and things of that nature on the property. This is what your basic conventional landscape looks like. It's basically a 1960s model of landscaping where we look at it as it could be more of a painting than an ecological piece of the puzzle of our environment. So it's important that we realize that these old landscapes incorporated non-native plants, invasive plants, use synthetic pesticides. In most cases, they do not benefit ecology, leads to excessive irrigation. And I've actually heard these landscapes from Tony Lund from a group in Princeton, New Jersey. He calls them plastic landscapes, which I thought was kind of unique. Soil, again, is the most important part. When you have leach friable soil, you have lots of spaces and pore spaces for the biology to sort of find a nice little resting place. You can see on the left side of your screen the fungal hyphae that's able to spread out through that leach friable soil. The center, obviously, is the fine root hairs of plants that can through those pore spaces and find their way for water and nutrients. And the right-hand side, again, is just a closer picture of the fungal hyphae and fine root tips. You can probably also see some worm castings in there as well. So again, what this organic land care talk is there's a lot involved in this, like Jamie was saying, with the electric and transition to organics and ecological. So when you talk in terms of peeling back the onion, the presentation that I'm giving you today is really, you just went to the store and bought the bag. You haven't even started to peel back the onion yet. It's literally not the 30,000 foot look. It's the 300,000 square foot look. So there's a lot to take in, and hopefully this is just a little primer that'll get you on your way there. So again, organic lawns, and our organic lawns are maintained with our battery powered motors. Green infrastructure and native plants. We're interested in carbon sequestration. We're interested in stormwater management, removing turf grass to have a more ecological and beneficial use of the land that are on our clients' properties. This picture here shows the installation of a rain garden. This is also a rain garden. It's about 4 years old, and over the course of 5 years, this particular rain garden will collect and infiltrate roughly 2 million gallons of water back into the aquifer. Not sure where you guys are all located, but I know in the Northeast we have a terrible problem with plants and how they're planted and how they come out of the nursery. So every plant that we put in the ground has to be root collared, because very typically, you'll see my cursor here on the right-hand side, we have trees and potted plants that come out of the nurseries that are too deep. So we have to do root collar excavation on every plant to find that flare at the base to make sure that the planting is done at the right depth. And obviously overmulching is not an organic land care practice. So businesses, how can we make money? Which is an important thing, because most folks look at this sort of new technology and think that we can't make money in these types of environments. What this does is it makes you find inefficiencies in your operation, and you'll strive for greater efficiency. You'll market specifically to residents who are looking for these types of sustainable services. Again, one of the 10 tenets is running your business with honesty and integrity, because once you do this, you have to sell and you have to support what you're doing through better guarantees, and you're going to obviously be able to raise your rates, which will obviously raise your bottom line. By raising your rates, you'll eliminate competition, because you're going to be providing a specific service, and you have to price on quality and not quantity, because when you start to get into that low ball scenario, it's a no-win situation. So just for frame of reference, our company right now, we currently manage for about 45 residential properties. I'd like to think we're in a growth mode. Like everybody else, I know we're struggling for help, to find help to continue to grow at this point, but I'm sure that'll break and we'll be able to get our labor back. And we have a broad range of properties. We have properties where we can spend a day on with a crew of 4, half a day on with a crew of 4, and then we have others where we spend half an hour with a crew of 2. That's a pretty broad range. Our revenue is just under $1 million, which we're expected to be over in 1 to 2 years. We have a team of 4 to 7, 8 to 12 in the next 2 years. Profit ranges from 15 to 20%. We've been basically stable as far as employees go. So how does our revenue and profit go up? Well, we've raised our prices. And when you can stabilize your labor force and do a high quality of work and raise your prices, obviously your profit goes up. So that's going to depend upon what you're buying as far as equipment and things of that nature too. So your profit's going to vary from year to year. But if you can manage your inefficiencies and raise your prices and do a good job, a quality job, you'll be able to reach these profit ranges. I feel. Education and leadership. This is a huge part of what we're talking about, which is why we're all here today. Norfolk, Connecticut has a great program. Our Rutgers program in New Jersey, the Organic Land Care program is awesome. Again, like we talked about, AGZA and Dan, his group is fantastic. You need to get involved in your community and local industry associations. And like Jamie was saying, it's a marathon, not a sprint. You need to take little bites. More people have failed by taking up more than they can chew. So going slow and taking a slow progress is probably the better way than jumping into the end of the pool. From a leadership standpoint, folks that are on this call today are probably somewhere in the innovator to early adopters range. And those are the clients that you're going to be marketing to as well. And they're out there. So, we've had plenty of phone calls for work this year. And again, at this point, we're having trouble getting to that work because of the labor. Be prepared to be challenged and speak about what you're doing. The more open you are about what you're doing, the more integrity it builds as a contractor. Just a couple final thoughts. The industry is changing. Folks like you on this call, Dan, Jamie, NOFA, Rutgers, the ELA, the Ecological Landscape Association, and others see the opportunity to have a positive impact in people's daily lives, employees in general public as well. Your positive impacts while running a reputable business and profit. Most importantly, the biggest factor that's driving this is the consumer. They're looking for our services, and we need to be out there to provide them a high quality of organic and ecological services using these battery-powered new technologies. And I feel that it's quite possible to manage a business in this fashion. So I think that's all we have. Yep, that's all we have. I will hand this over to Dan if you're there.
Yes, Richard, I am here.
All right. See how we do. Okay, you should be good.
Okay, thank you, Richard. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen first before we do our housekeeping. Thank you very much. Host disabled participant screen sharing. So
you're not out yet.
Try again.
No, there it is. Nope. Sorry, guys. Why can't I find it?
So Rick, do you have the
Yeah.
participants on the right?
Oh, there you go. I'm sorry, Jim. Yep. Sorry about that, Dan.
Oh, no worries at all. No worries. No stress here.
All right. Now you got it.
Okay.
Sorry about that, everybody.
Okay, let me get this up. And then we'll do our housekeeping. Okay, hello everybody, Dan May with the American Green Zone Alliance. Richard, thank you so much for agreeing to join us today. Jamie Banks of Quiet Communities and AGZA really feel it's so important for us to spread this message about organic land care and basically have a convergence of what we're doing and what you're doing and others like you. For instance, non-toxic communities. There's a lot of organizations out there that we're really pointing people to, and we really feel that this is holistic. So Richard, again, thank you for a nice introductory to this concept. And we just want everybody to know that this is part of the industry, and there is a business model here for electric or low impact services, maintenance, and then of course the organic land care services that Richard just touched on. Okay, so American Green Zone Alliance, otherwise known as AGZA, we are a leader in low impact sustainable grounds maintenance strategies. Our mission is to prudently transition the grounds maintenance industry to quieter, more sustainable practices, and I want to stress prudently, and that's that long game that Jamie and Richard had mentioned. And applications, some of them commercial crews who service municipalities, schools, and residential properties. AGZA created a few ways to do this. A couple mentioned here is our AGZA Green Zone certification. That is property transition. We have an example of that. And then our Service Pro certification, which we're here to let everybody know that it exists and it is now offered online. That is the crew transition, providing that engagement with the workforce and it acts as a behavior modification model. And then other things we do are AFTC, where we test entire platforms independent of the manufacturers. And then we test them for safety, their reliability, and their ergonomics. Okay, so how did this all start? Well, it's been around quite some time. Basically, gas leaf blowers are wreaking havoc in densely populated communities. Some people are very, very sensitive to noise, and a lot of people are sensitive to toxins in the air. So right now, there is an organized movement all over the country to ban gas leaf blowers. And I think it's a wake-up call for all of us, the industry, cities, towns, municipalities, that this is a real issue that exists, over 200 and counting. Coming from the gas industry myself, working with gas tools under circumstances, and then as a young adult, here are my top 10 picks for impacts of gas operations. Of course, at the top and in the middle is noise. We're going to really focus on some noise slides today. Of course, we have the emissions, what's coming out of those tailpipes, health risks. I can tell you that, I know what my health has had to endure by using gas tools and how it's impacted my respiratory. And then also lesser known issues with gas operations. On the bottom left is the toxic and solid waste component. That is a result from maintaining small gas engines cradle to grave. Okay, so just to hit on noise really quick, this can be any one of us. We can be inside or we can be outside. And this is how my neighborhood is set up. We have neighbors to the left, the right, across the street, behind, and this is what it sounds like all week long. And I'm going to actually play some of that for you so you can hear it. But this is what that noise profile looks like, and we all know what it sounds like. If these tools were electric for routine maintenance, which a lot of routine maintenance can be done with electric now, this is what that noise profile would look like. And here's an example of a company called Suntech. They're using this mower at a HOA in Calabasas, California. And we shadowed them doing not only some training, but to just demonstrate how quiet these tools are. Okay, not only are we doing training sessions here, first-time users on this AGZA, we're also continually testing these tools for their commercial viability in these unique situations. Here you can see this is an HOA. They value quiet. You see the size of this grass. Till next time, AGZA Raw. Okay, so when I say AGZA Raw, we usually don't do any slick productions. We're literally out there in the field, tracking real-time progress, measuring work production load capability of electric tools versus gas and so forth, and then measuring decibel levels. And then, of course, we're not breathing in any of that toxic exhaust when shadowing the crews. Here's an example of some institutional green zoning. This is the city of South Pasadena. We have well over, I believe, 20 institutional green zones established. A lot of them are not published yet, but we always show this as our prime example because this was our first, city of South Pasadena in Southern California. And how did we do it? Well, about 6 years ago, we started to work with their public works and their vendor and city staff. We did a beta project at Garfield Park, which you see here on the right. It was so successful that we were able to work with the city, the vendor, and the public works department to actually AGZA certify the entire city. All city properties for this particular certification are done with people-powered and battery electric technology for routine maintenance. There are some workloads where they're allowed to use gas, where electric technology is not workload and economically feasible. It was a very big deal back then. We had the mayor, city council, members of Congress and Senate were present. Of course, the vendors and public works and various community groups were present at this ceremony. And just to let everybody know, it wasn't just for show, it really is for dough. To this day, in their RFP process, anybody who wants to work for the city of South Pasadena as a land care contractor would need to go through AGZA certification or equivalent, and then adhere to the AGZA Green Zone standard that has been established there. And then continuing with some of the programs, like we had mentioned, I want to focus on some neat technologies. This is a company, the Langton Group, worked with AOS to form a robotic mower green zone in the state of Illinois. We just want to show everybody that there's all these neat technologies that Jamie had mentioned prior. And I was actually out in Illinois about a month ago. And believe it or not, it was 44 degrees and raining. But here's an example of how these little robotic mowers are actually taking care of our 30-acre green zone. Okay, Dan Mabe, American Green Zone Alliance here at the HOA AGZA Certified Green Zone through the Langton Group. Look at that little guy right there. Did that little patch. Now he's going to the next patch. It can actually cross hardscape and go and mow this other section. You don't hear it, no emissions. It's just amazing. Until next time. Okay, so this was a very rewarding project. They're using that Husqvarna auto mower, and then of course their crews are using all of the electric tools that you see there. And what's interesting, for the big areas where there was no plug-in or power to get the mowers recharged, they installed solar panels with backup batteries and inverters. Every time the mower gets tired, it comes back, takes a little nap, and then goes back out and starts doing its thing. It's just a really amazing project, and we really thank the Langton Group for helping us with that. Okay, Service Pro certification, that's what we're really here for today. Look at this picture here. Some people are like, oh my gosh, this is just horrible. And believe me, if you were standing right there and hearing that and then breathing the air in, you would think it's horrible as well. But these are people who just really want to do their job, help us keep our communities looking great, clean, neat, keep our properties values high, increase our property values. It's important not to demonize this workforce. We need to take a look at the equipment that's been afforded to this industry for the past 4 or 5 decades. Service Pro certification, this is where we really feel we're making enduring change. When we're able to embrace and engage the workforce, empower them with information, it seems like we are really having success at 100%. The people you see in this room here, 3 of these workers, one is in their late 60s, 2 are in their early 70s. So before you go and complain to somebody about doing this or doing that, really take a look at the men and women who are doing this work for us. And what they have told us is using these electric tools versus the gas, it's lighter, there's less vibration. And now that they understand that it can actually help them achieve the same aesthetic end to doing their job, just with some modifications and some acclimation, they're really pleased and grateful that they're able to use the electric tools. Here's some examples. I want to mention South Coast Air Quality Management District. locally here in Southern California, this district has really taken an amazing approach by creating a program where these gas operators can trade in that old gas blower that you see on the left. I believe that's an Echo PB770, and they can trade that in for that Husqvarna backpack blower and receive up to 75% off of the original retail price. It's been amazing. There's been some great progress made with all of the manufacturers who have been placed into that program. Things like this matter in our certification courses. We encourage the workers to hang up their tools, put extra safety on them because it's a bigger upfront investment. I can tell you that this crew uses these tools that you see in this picture 6 days a week for almost 2 years, and they have been holding up. And this is a testament to the technology. But if these tools were dropped, just thrown into the back of the truck, banged around, they would not be lasting that long. Here's a great example. Cadre, they outbid some of the big boys, Landcare, Brightview, Gothic, and they were successfully bid for this lucrative business park. And they did so with their AGZA certification. We wrote a positioning letter for them. We even gave them some thumbnail metrics on with the ELF software that Jamie and Quiet Communities and AGZA have to help them understand what kind of impact reductions they would be receiving when they hired Cadre, and they still have this lucrative account to this day. Why do we need certification? Well, here's one reason why: safety. This is a company that called us about 6 times. They forewent certification, and this was the result of it. Not only is this a safety issue, but you have roughly $10,000 worth of tools that probably won't make it to year 2. And if they did, if I were the steel dealer and the manufacturer, I probably would not honor a warranty with this type of neglect on tools. Here is something that is typical when we have our certification, whether it's cruise certification or green zone certification. This is the city of Glendale. They established 8 AGZA certified green zones. And here's what they did. And what's interesting, Jamie talked about charging infrastructure. Just really quick, this little green box that you see on the left, this is called a PDM, a Power Distribution Manager. It's from a company called TOA. You basically need to just plug into one outlet with a 20 amp breaker, and it has 8 plugs in the back of it, and it manages all the loads. So there's new products on the market, new technologies. We're going to bring them to you, and this is what we call a turnkey charging solution. I want to credit Tony Lund for providing some of these slides here because we really do need to think differently about our landscaping and our expectations. He calls it plastic landscaping. I call it hyper manicured landscaping. It's neat. It's everything's in place. It's tidy, but it's bland and it's boring. And maybe it's an expectation that the gas industry, you know, we need to all take a look at it and say, hey, is this the actual expectation? If it is, then to each their own. But when you look at this, I feel that this property is well kept. It's well maintained. There's some leaves on the lawn. We don't want anybody to panic. In fact, this homeowner allows the gardener to mulch these leaves. You can also plant pollinator gardens native, like Richard had mentioned, create some biodiversity in your yard, and make sure that you're using those water-wise irrigation techniques as well. People are doing this. It's a movement. They're creating their own little green zones at home. Homeowners are just buying suites of electric tools and actually saying, you know what, I'm going to do the work myself. Or they're buying electric tools and asking their gardener to use the tools dedicated for their property. All right, so that's the end of my presentation. I'm sorry if I went over. We're going to give it back to our host, Fausto, and make sure everybody stays on because we're very excited to give away this Evo handheld blower. I believe it's the 580 CFM model, and thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, Rick, and thank you, Dan, for that wonderful content. We do have a few questions here, so let's just get those out of the way. We still have a few minutes. All right, so the first question, and I'll just read it out loud, and our three panelists, our three presenters can just chime in, unmute yourself, and at any time just to answer the question. All right, so question number one. So far, Jamie is just replacing gasoline by electricity. Shouldn't we fix the tasks to be done first, make the landscape sustainable, then do the work with lower carbon footprint? So let me just repeat that. So far, Jamie is just replacing gasoline with electricity. Shouldn't we just fix the tasks to be done first, make the landscape sustainable, then do the work with the lower carbon footprint?
So I'll take a stab at this first, and then maybe Rick or Dan can chime in. In our experience, people are in different places about this, and we have to be very flexible in the solutions that we help them to implement. You know, for some people, yes, you're exactly right, Richard. It's, you know, they want to do sustainable landscaping so that they have less turf to maintain to begin with, and then, you know, they can transition to the appropriate tools that they need to maintain what little bit they have left. For other people, they want a big lawn. So we really try and meet people where they are with different solutions, and that's kind of the way of the world. And we, you know, in the end, we're pragmatists. We want change to happen. We don't have any strong and fast rules that applies across the board to everyone. We try and meet people where they are.
Yeah, excellent, Jamie. Thank you for that. And I'm going to let Richard chime in too if he wants. Another thing to think about too is changing your landscape in your front yard at a normal residential house anywhere in the United States can be quite costly as well. AGZA had noticed that there was a lot of attention to drought tolerant natives, mulching, composting for so long, and it seemed like no one was really addressing the internal combustion equation of this till we kind of took it head on. So I'm going to go ahead and echo Jamie's sentiments that it definitely we need flexibility to achieve as much progress as possible. Just one quick example, a utility company here in Southern California went all native and drought tolerant. And what was interesting is they stopped using lawnmowers, but then to maintain the property, two-stroke leaf blowers are used to maintain the property now. So we're just not sure what the net effect was there when in terms of achieving reductions in internal combustion, even though they had taken all the grass out.
Yeah, so I mean, I think both Dan and Jamie are spot on with that. I mean, from a business standpoint, I think what we do, and this is what I mentioned in my presentation, is we market people that are interested in these kind of services. So a lot of them have a predisposition already. Some of them may be doing things organically. Some of them may be using native plants already. And when we step in, you know, there's always an education curve as we learn the property and the homeowner, and as we educate them on the practices that we use. So yes, Jamie's correct. Each person, each one would be an individual, but it's always, at least for our company anyway, it's always trying to reach further and push the boundaries within the client's wishes to make sure that we can do the things that are ecologically and organically sound. You know, removing turf grass, like I mentioned, in areas where, you know, under trees where grass, you can't, you know, grass needs 8 hours of full sun to grow. So, people continually try to grow grass under shade trees, and they have difficulties with it. So instead of doing something like that, we'll pull out all the all the grasses underneath, turf grass underneath the trees, and either do one of two things: either just let moss come in. We've done that before, or we'll use our air spade and sort of till up that whole section underneath the canopy and plant understory natives that want to grow in those soil conditions, whether it's an acidic soil or dry soil, wet soil. There's any kind of native plant to match any kind of soil condition in a landscape. You just have to do that right plant, right place equation, and you can make it work. But yeah, I mean, each one's an individual, and you have to sort of take it at baby steps and working their way through the landscapes.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Rick. All right, moving on to the next question. The certification needs to be on the principles that McCoy is talking about. Most landscapers can't maintain a natural landscape. They don't know how to do it or what the plants are. They are demons with string trimmers.
Yeah, I'll just grab that real quick while I'm on the screen here. So yeah, that's definitely the case, and that's why we're here. What I do in New Jersey is every year I'll speak with the New Jersey trade associations here and try to get contractors to understand more about the better way of doing things. I actually just saw a post on Facebook today where somebody mentioned that they had Asclepias tuberosa, the orange flowered butterfly weed, and their landscaper came and pulled it out because they thought it was weed. I would imagine most people on this call know that we need to keep that in our landscapes at this point for pollinators. But he was a mow and blow guy who just came and did some weeding and just ripped everything out. And, it's a big problem. And to that point too, there is always going to be that sector of the community that I mean, this one person, the example that I use from Facebook, certainly they care about the plant material on their property, but there's always going to be a segment of the population that's not interested in what the 3-4 of us are offering on this webinar tonight. It's just going to be a fact.
Yeah, I'd like to add to what Rick's saying too. I mean, I think over the years that land care has really been devalued. It's really just become a thing where you see these machines operating and they're blowing topsoil off. And, these are delicate ecosystems that need to be nurtured and maintained. And the knowledge to do that has been glossed over or ignored. And so we have to try and bring that back, that these are natural systems and they operate in biological ways that require care and knowledge and all of this. And so, it's like our food system. We buy food cheaply, we get land care cheaply, but in fact, when you really care and want to develop something truly sustainable, that's good for the earth, you need that knowledge and training and so forth to do that.
Yeah, and I'm just, and thank you, Jamie. I'm gonna a quick add on. We're a microwave society. We want results instantaneously. AGZA, like I was having that conversation with Richard, what can we impart to our alliance members, to our audience about organic land care immediately? And we've always been anti-Roundup, using alternatives that may take longer to get those results, but we're definitely searching for those answers and for some simple things that people can do practically right away that we can impart to our audience. So again, I really hope that today is a good starting point.
Yeah, if I could just one thing on the land care. I think it's for us anyway, we like to use the term land care because of the way we go about our business. The mow and blow guys, to me, that's landscaping, right? So when you're a steward of the land, that's when the land care, to me anyway, comes into the equation instead of just mow and blow, shear everything into meatballs and walk away and go on to the next job. Right. It's definitely, you had that last slide, Dan, where it's a paradigm shift, and you really you just have to flip your view of how you're managing your landscapes upside down. because it's not the way we manage landscapes now. It's not like I mentioned in my presentation. It's not that 1960s sort of, there's a bug on my plant, I need to spray it. Now it's like, well, there's a bug on my plant and it's probably supposed to be there, so don't spray it. So you really just need to start looking at things differently, and that's where I think the idea of land care comes in, because it's more of a stewardship than the conventional landscape.
Thank you, Richard, for that input. We are running out of time right now, so we will unfortunately not be able to answer the final few questions. So moving right ahead with the drawing, but before I do, let me just reiterate that what the main message here, that transitioning to sustainable land care is really not an easy journey. It's full of challenges, complexities, changing technologies, and AGZA and quiet communities have been helping hundreds of organizations, schools, municipalities really transition out of gas into electric. So you can find all of that content packed into an on-demand course. And so please visit our website. The website address is sustainablelandcare.org. And you can sign up, you can register. We have an exclusive offer that expires tonight at midnight. And if you use the promo code only today, I repeat, only today, you'll get $50 off the course that is right now at a reduced price of $149. So essentially, you're getting a lot of information and your certificate for less than $100. So I urge you to, again, visit sustainablelandcare.org, and you can learn more about our courses.